And pull up our agenda. It's good to see everybody in the boxes and in person, Bob. And Sabah, thank you for leading tonight in Martha's absence. We've still got some people coming in. All right, Sabah, it looks like you have a quorum, so if you want to get started, you're good to go.
Okay, thank you, Beth. Yes. All right. Well, welcome everybody. Good to see everybody. Happy New Year. I am going to call the meeting to order. Well, no, not yet. Let's see. Do we have a quorum?
We do have a quorum. Yes, sir. You've
Okay,
got
good.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 board members present. So yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Do I have a motion to call the Gordon Burnell Governance Council January meeting to order at 4:02 p.m.?
I move we call the meeting to order.
A second.
Thank you, Deb. And thank you, Ben, for seconding. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Then we have a quorum and we can start our meeting. Let's do a quick roll call. So Sabai Jati, Gordon Burnell Governance Council member, filling in for Martha, who's out on maternity leave right now. And we can just go around. Beth, you can go ahead.
Great. My name is Beth Dorado, director here at Gordon Burnell Charter School, and I'll pass it off to Deb.
Hello, I'm Deb DeTore. I'm a member of the Gordon Burnell Charter School Council.
Ben Sparks, member of the council.
Welcome, Ben.
Tina Martinez, council member.
Hello, Jody Brashia, council member.
Sammy Marquez, business manager.
Erica Rivas, I'll be recording the minutes.
Chris Kazan, I'm principal.
All right, I think we got everybody. Thank you. Do you have a motion to approve our agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Ben. And anybody second that?
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Jody, for seconding. Okay, and we are always open for public comment from members of the public, but I don't think I see anybody here to do that, so we can go ahead and move forward. I think we're going to start. We don't have a staff member of the month for this month, but minutes approval. Thank you, Erica. Do you have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Go, Ben.
Thank you, Ben.
I'll second. I'll second. So.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, and yeah, like I was saying, we don't have a staff member of the month, but in lieu of that, we are going to have Miss Fox on to talk with us about the LPA amendment that we can discuss. And Beth, did you want to do that before the finance presentation or after? Sorry.
I think Sammy was fine with doing it before, so she could be present as well.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll jump in if you don't mind, Sabah, with a little bit of context and an introduction. We're grateful for the opportunity for the board to review lots of documentation around our LPA amendment, the second LPA amendment. And so present with us today is Sue Fox, who is our legal counsel, represents both the school and the board. And Sue, I'll let you introduce yourself. We do have some new board members since the last time you joined a meeting. So if you're available, to just briefly introduce yourself and speak to your role. And then Sue, I don't know if you wanted to do just kind of an overview of the resolution that's before the board today, or if we want to stand for questions first, but I'm grateful that you're here, Sue, and hopeful that it's an appropriate time to pass it off to you.
Can't hear her.
Oh, I was assuming that S.
I was gonna say Sue's not online. I don't know if anybody.
Online. Yeah, I apologize. We do have the board meetings are always open to the public, and we do. I saw S Parks BX, and in my dyslexic sometimes mind, I saw Fox instead of the BX. And so I'm hopeful that Sue can join us, and then maybe we do move on. Sabah, my apologies to the finance report.
Okay. Yeah.
Hopefully Sue will do this quickly. I'll send her a text and see if I can catch up with her somewhere.
Okay. Well, should we give Sue a couple minutes, or Sammy, if you feel comfortable, you can go ahead with the finance review. We could get to Sue after that.
Sure, whatever works for me. It's pretty quick, so I can get through mine pretty quick if you guys want.
Okay, why don't we go ahead with the finance review, and then when Sue comes on, we can do that.
Perfect. Let me share. Can you see my screen? Perfect.
Yeah.
So we do have 3 bars today, an increase, an initial budget, and then a transfer bar. Our increases for our adult ed program, we did get awarded another grant for $20,000. This is in lieu of federal carryover. So we did not get our federal carryover this year, but we got this grant instead, which it's pretty comparable in the dollar amount. So that's great. Beth and I already talked about a plan on where to spend it. We are sending, I believe, 7 staff members on a professional development trip, specific for adult education. And I believe we budgeted the rest of it to supplies and materials. It's a smaller portion for supplies. It's basically all going to go to that. And then we also did a transfer bar for our 24154. This is just to make sure we're not over budget at the function level. And then the last one is initial budget for our lease assistance. We did get our award for $157,000. Again, it covers most of our lease, but not all of it. So we will still pay a little bit out of pocket for that, but this does help us significantly. Are there any questions on the bars? No? All righty, we'll keep on moving. Looking at our projected budget balance, we don't have anything that's over 100% here. That's always what we like to look for. Things are looking good. We are spending our federal and state funds. All of our reimbursable funds, we are working towards spending those down, and we'll look at them a little bit closer in the chart below. Looking at our yearly expenditure comparison by month, no large change here, kind of flowing as it normally would throughout the year. Don't have any large expenditures like we did last year as of yet. Once we do the LPA amendment and we get the elevator going, we will see some larger expenses going on. Looking at our function code change, which is our spending in the classroom, we're sitting still at about 64%, closer to 65 almost. We've stayed super consistent for the whole year, around between 62 and 64%. This is really what we want to see, that most of our spending is going to the classroom directly. So directly to our students. And then, of course, our admin is always a little bit higher because of we have multiple principals, basically. Looking at our liquidity, we are sitting about almost 7 months worth of cash on hand to cover those monthly recurring expenses. If our revenue did stop, we would be good for almost 7 months. We've stayed real consistent throughout this year, which has been great. You can see in prior years, we did fluctuate quite a bit, but we're staying pretty consistent. We will see a change in it, again, with the big expenditure from the elevator. But aside from that, this is a very strong number, and our cash balances look really good. This is that more detailed chart looking at our funds, our budget analysis. So you'll see the only two funds right now that are over is our lease assistance, which we just received the award, as well as the city county grants. This is that same one that we've kind of gone over the last few months. We're just waiting for that bar to be approved on PED side. I want to say they approved it either today or yesterday. So on next month's financials, you should see that this is no longer negative. And then Beth did point out we are missing one fund, I think, from this chart, our OST grant, which is a new grant, which is probably why it's missing. And so I'll make sure to include that on next month's financials as well. Any questions on any of our funds?
Sammy, do you know off the top of your head how much in OST we'll be getting?
Nope. I was gonna say I want to say it's around 20,000, but that's outdoor learning.
I think the word is a little closer to 30.
I think I
yeah.
think it's 31 actually. 31, 32. It is around there, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And it is something that we've had the whole year. It's just missing from this chart. And
Yes.
so we initial barred it at the beginning of the semester. We're really focusing on the incarcerated students for this OST program, which has been a different shift than in the past. And that's been lovely. We've had a working classroom, we've had Golden Forward, we've had quite a few contractors go out, and then we're also doing a tutoring group out there after school hours. So I'm super excited to bring some of those enriching and intervention experiences to that population this year.
Mm-hmm. And it is being encumbered and spent. So it will have a percentage. It's just missing from the chart.
Thank you.
Of course. Good questions. And any other questions on any of our funds here? No? Alrighty. Looking at our check listing report, there is one check that I did point out specifically, but if anybody has questions, let me know on any of the other ones. This Ed Connective is the one that I did point out because it was significantly higher. It is for instructional coaching support. And Beth, I don't know if you want to share what you shared in the finance meeting. I think it gives good context to what it is and what it's doing.
Yeah, so this comes from our CSI MRI fund. So in part of our restructuring and redesign to try to improve our student outcomes, we get some resources to do that. And so it's this virtual weekly coaching for all of our instructional staff. It started this year. The beginning of the sessions, we had 2 sessions, a fall session and a spring session. At the beginning of the fall session, there was a lot of this is impossible. I don't know how you expect us to fit this into the day, into the week. I don't want to have to prepare artifacts. And it was really kind of, there was a lot of pushback. And then we said, no, I know this vendor. I've worked with them in the past. Let's just leadership. We all got coaches so that we could be alongside instructional staff in the experience. And then coaching started, it got quiet for a while. And then I started to hear these conversations in PLCs and meetings. Well, my coach and I have been thinking this, and that. And by the end of the 90-day coaching session, we got a lot of really positive feedback. At one point, our spring session was only set for 60 days. And staff were like, well, can't we do 90? And so it's been a real powerful piece. There certainly is buy-in now. I adore my coach through Ed Connective. I have a leadership coach, and we were able to find budget in the same fund to increase the spring session to 90 days and to add a few other staff members who work directly with students as well because the feedback was so positive. So good stuff. Well worth the large numbers that you see there.
Any questions on any of the other checks? No? Alrighty. Of course, under that, we have some more detailed reports. These just go line by line through our accounts, expense, and then after is revenue. And then we do have our balance sheet next. looking at cash, liabilities, change in fund balance, as well as our statement of revenues, expenditures, and change in fund balance. Looking at our bank reconciliation, we do net out as always. And on our outstanding check listing, we only have one check that we'll be researching, try to get cleared by next month. It's another student check from last year that we have reissued. But I just don't think students like to cash checks or really know how to work checks. And so we're going to try to do a direct deposit into their account just so that we can get this off of our books. You'll see the rest are all from December. So they are all recent. And then if we go to the bottom, we do see on our December 31st that we do tie out. Any questions on anything here? No? Well, that is all that I have.
Thank you, Sammy. All right. Well, Beth, it looks like Sue is on. So if you want to move into that, we can. Or we could approve accounts and payroll vouchers.
Up to you, Sabah.
Let's just.
All right. Well, so yeah, since it's fresh for us, let's can I get a motion to approve the accounts and payroll vouchers?
I move that we approve the accounts and payroll vouchers.
Deb, and a second.
I second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and can I get a motion to approve the budget adjustment requests?
I move to approve the bars.
Thank you, Tina, and a second.
I second.
that.
I think I heard Deb first, so thank you, Deb, for seconding. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It was Jody.
Approve the budget adjustment request. Okay, so it looks like Sue is here, so I think we can move on to that agenda item and talk about the LPA amendment. So Beth or Sue, take it away.
Yeah, hi, welcome, Sue. So glad that you could be here today. We do have a few board members that are new since the last time you've been to the board. And so if you don't mind just starting off a little bit and explaining who you are and your role, I think that's always helpful for board members who haven't interacted or heard from you in the past. And then I'm grateful for you to be here and just kind of walk us through the resolution and some of the other documents that they've had. If you'd like me to pull anything up on the screen, I certainly can, but I thought we'd just start with introductions and go from there.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Sue Fox with Charter Law Office, and I am the school's legal counsel. So I've been working with Gordon Burnell for, I don't know, in one form or another for probably almost as long as you've been in existence. And happy to continue with that. We have already, on your current site, you're currently under a lease purchase arrangement, which is basically a lease to own type thing. So with every lease payment you make to Rachel Matthew Development, your building equity, and eventually this site is going to be fully paid off and you'll own the property outright. Periodically, we have come before the board to amend the lease purchase arrangement. Most recently, to provide for addition, right, Beth? Mm-hmm. Then this is for further improvements to your existing site that I'm going to have Beth describe, because Beth, you and Steve have been the ones sort of figuring that out.
Absolutely. So when we built the Career Development Center, the addition which is essentially funded through the lease purchase agreement amendment number 1, it does have a second story. And we knew at that point that an elevator would cost about $750,000. And there was a way to remain ADA compliant without financing that large of an expense. And so we built this building without an elevator. It does have a second floor. We are ADA compliant because we're under a minimum square footage in that second floor, and we can offer all services that we would offer on the second floor on the first floor. So we can accommodate anyone who comes into the building. But pretty quickly, it came to my attention that there are, while we can offer services downstairs, it just really would be better to have an elevator for lots of reasons. And so $750,000 for an elevator sounded like an awful lot of money. But we were able to raise it at the legislative session last year. And so, you know, one option would be just to install the elevator as is, but that's not the only improvement that we want to make. And if we're going to be disrupted by construction in order to put this elevator in, we thought we might as well get down some of the other improvements that we're also been working towards. And so we're adding, besides the elevator, we are adding quite a bit of outdoor space improvements. And so improving walkways and lighting in the rear part of our building. Right now, we only have lights in our parking lot. And then really looking at improving what's happening in our newly acquired property across the street of Phoenix. And so we did purchase the lot to the north of us, and we put in a basketball court. But that's all over there. And it's a lovely space. And so there have been a group of student interns working diligently over the last 6 months to investigate what outdoor learning spaces can look like. They are working with the landscape architect who would be employed through Rachel Matthews once this LPA and if this LPA is approved. And so there's all kinds of improvements to that space. They're looking at some greenhouse and irrigation. They're looking at planting trees, putting up some sound barriers, creating a little auditorium and some outdoor learning spaces. There's a lot of space over there. And so those improvements are super exciting. And then there's also the safety pieces of increased lighting and signage and walkways to connect the two properties and really make them accessible and usable. And so all together, we didn't have enough money to do all the things we wanted to do. And so the biggest expense that we're talking about is the building of the elevator shaft and the installation of the elevator itself. But we're also doing a lot of improvements to our outdoor and surrounding outdoor learning spaces as well. And then we're just as a last piece, because that work is ongoing, but we really wanted to move forward. The planning work is ongoing. You do notice that Steve is providing some language that, you know, we have a maximum agreed upon price here. And that he is making assurances that even though the exact costs of what all of that outdoor learning space is still being determined, that none of that results in an increased profit on his behalf. And that if we do have funds left as we work with the subcontractors and really understand what the cost of the outdoor learning space is going to be, that we will invest that in improvements to our solar. When we initiated our original building, we have solar panels. For a while, that was covering the majority of our energy expenses. Since the addition, it no longer does. And so there are assurances that if there is a balance after those outdoor learning projects are completed, that we will invest the rest of that money into increasing our solar panel numbers and production, and really making sure that that system is cutting edge and providing us the best alternative energy sources that we can have. So that's kind of the full gamut of what the money will be spent on.
And so, thanks, Beth. So, this second amendment, is relatively simple. It's simply adding those improvements that Beth was describing into the school's current lease purchase arrangement. The interest rate remains the same and the term remains the same. I do need to point out, I always, when I go through it, like the second and third time, I see typos. And there is a typo in the resolution. In the fourth paragraph, it says an initial payment of 93,000. That's actually should be 935,000.
That is correct, Sue.
Down by the school. So you're really only amortizing, and I'll make that change, but really you're only amortizing that difference, 400 and some $1,000. You're only adding that to your current LPA schedule, and you guys are paying that down pretty quickly. So been doing a good job. I do want to also point out that any improvements that Rachel Matthew makes to the property across the street that's owned by the school that become attached to the school become the school's property. So Steve can't take and isn't taking any ownership interest in that property at all by virtue of this lease purchase arrangement. I think the school sounds like it's just using this mechanism to help the school finance those other improvements. So so that's really about it. And if there are any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them.
I appreciate that. So I do want to clarify, the term has changed over since the last amendment because we've made extensive principal payments. And so we're certainly not increasing the terms from the last LPA, but it does increase slightly. Our current balance right now has us paying everything off 2028, and this moves us back to 2030. But that's significantly sooner than our last LPA, which had us at 2042, I believe. I may be slightly wrong about that number, but we've made some pretty significant principal payments since then. And so I don't know, so I just want to make sure that the language is reflective of that. The term does change slightly from where we are now, but it's still well below the last time that the board signed, if that makes sense, or if I need to clarify more.
Well, the language that, I mean, you guys talked about the term. I mean, I wasn't involved in the negotiations, so I'm just looking at the amortization schedule that Steve provided. Which shows 48 payments here. So I'm not quite sure where the reference to 18 years is coming from, Beth.
Well, that was when we signed the LPA amendment number 1, we were looking at an 18-year term, but we raised capital outlay money to the point of nearly 1.3 million, and we directly injected that into the principal payment. And so there is an amortization that is where we currently are since our last principal payment, and that has us paying off the current LPA as it stands in 2028, just 2 years from now. And so this amendment would, I would much prefer not increasing our monthly payments, but looking at the term. Our monthly payments right now, or the majority, is covered by lease assistance. Nothing is coming out of operational. We pay for what doesn't get covered by lease assistance through HB 33. And so I don't want us to be dipping into operational funds. And so it feels like a better plan from my perspective to put that term back out to 2030, which is the amortization scale, the most recent version, and what the board looked at for this meeting. The proposed one has us going now to 2030, which is 4 years out instead of 2 years out. But we're nowhere near the 8.
In that case, I guess this needs to change. Well, I guess what probably needs to change is Steve's amortization schedule. because, right now your resolution provides that it's amortized over an 18-year term, and I understand that what you and Steve may have been thinking about there is that, overall, starting from when the first lease purchase arrangement went into place to the end of this amendment, it would be an 18-year term. But
Well, that was the agreement that was made with the LPA Amendment 1, Sue. That took us out 18 years, but we've made principal payments since then.
well, then that's what I need. If that is the case, then that's what I need this resolution to reflect.
Yes, ma'am.
So right
And my
now,
apologies,
this resolution isn't accurate. And so neither would the lease purchase amendment itself be, which is, I talked with Matt about this an hour ago and he said it looked fine. So,
my apologies. So if you look at the notes, you know how you have, when we look at it in Word and that there's notes, Steve and I had addressed both of that in the notes, but I certainly want it to be correct before, we move forward.
I don't see any, where are the notes?
Let me share my screen. If we look at the.
This is in the linked documents?
So, when you had asked, because we're not increasing repayment term, there's several notes here that talk about how it's shifted. And then in our email correspondence that may have been there as well. So I'm not sure what the language needs to look at because our original LPA was paid off in 2024. And then our amendment from 2023 put the term all the way out to 2042. That was the 18 years. But this amendment with the amortization that schedule that the most recent one that Steve has gotten us, this has us out to 2030. This includes the additional this would be this is the most recent one he's provided.
Okay, all right. So I think we can probably move forward tonight. I think the lease purchase arrangement amendment itself is okay. Yes, I think that it is okay because we're replacing the base rent schedule with the new one. But the resolution is what is incorrect, and I think you can go ahead and pass the resolution with the amendment to change the initial payment in the fourth recital to $935,000 and to change the amortization term in the third paragraph to provide for a, what is that? That's a 4-year term?
Yeah, we would be at a 4-year term at this point from now until it was paid off would be a 4-year term. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So change 18-year term to 4-year terms. So with those two amendments, which Beth, I need editing ability in order to make those changes, or you can make them on your end. With those two amendments, you can go ahead, I believe, and approve the submission of this second amendment. And just to be clear about what we're resolving today is that these amendments have to be pre-approved by the Public Education Department before anybody can sign and enter into them. So what you're approving today is the submission of this package to the PED for approval. And then once we get that letter of approval from PED, then your governing council officer will be authorized to execute.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Deb.
So may I ask you a question? It's Deb DeTore. So what I'm hearing is we paid our other one off first, in less time, so we saved 9% interest over all those years. Do we need to put something in here that simply says that it will be paid off by 2030 or before? And that would make it so if we pay it off earlier, we don't have to worry about it?
No, I don't think so. I think, we're gonna attach the amortization schedule. And that will be, that'll say what the term is.
Sue, I'm looking at the resolution, and again, it was really helpful for me to clarify, if the board passes the resolution today, essentially it's permission to submit to all the other bodies that also have to approve, namely the PED, and the PSFA. But as I look at this, Sue, I'm trying to find where we need to adjust the term. I have the resolution on the screen, and it says that in this paragraph it talks about our first resolution, which did result in an 18-year term. And then I'm trying to see where it says how long this term is, so that I can
see what you're saying. Okay. Well, I think then I think maybe what we do in the fourth paragraph there is take out the word remaining, with the remainder authorized, amortized over the remaining term of the lease purchase arrangement.
And then make it a 4-year term.
Yeah. And
yeah, I'm glad we were able to suss this piece out.
why don't you just eliminate the word 4-year and just say over the term?
Perfect. Then we can pay it off early too.
as set forth in Exhibit 1. Right,
Yes.
so Exhibit 1 is
Yes.
going to be your amortization schedule.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that. That was confusing to me, obviously.
And Sue, these edits that we need to make, adjusting the amount to 93,500. Is that right? The initial payment?
No, 935,000.
930. Okay.
I just omitted the 5. And then that in that number, I'm missing a 0 after the comma.
Yes, thank you. Looks like we've got that number right now. We do have $935,000 of capital outlay appropriated for this project. And so again, that down payment does not come out of our operational or our carryover or our savings. It is in a capital outlay fund that we need to expend before the end of next fiscal year. And so our hope is to expend it as we execute this amendment and have fully use the money that was appropriated to us by the legislatures for this reason. To build the elevator and improve the school grounds.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone else have any questions that I may be able to address or that Sue may be able to address?
Beth, real quick, as I was looking at that, it seemed like in the third paragraph, unless I was counting wrong, it still referred to an 18-year term. Is that correct?
Yes, and so I think that is confusing. This third paragraph, it is the third paragraph down. This is just describing our first
That's still
amendment.
A or C.
Okay.
So, and so it's saying, yes, we had an LPA, then we had a first amendment, and now we desire to have a second amendment.
Okay. Okay.
And that first amendment did initially result in an 8-year term, but we've paid it down considerably over the last 3 years.
Okay.
And then, Beth, in the actual Second Amendment itself,
Yes, ma'am.
there's a typo in the word second. At the top there.
Oh, at the very top. Yes, ma'am.
And then also we'll need to omit that, take out that stricken sentence number 7
Yeah.
and remember.
Okay, again, those were my edits, but I wanted your guidance, Sue, so appreciate that. It's always good to spend some time selectively looking, because I don't know how many times I've looked at things and you don't see them, so it's.
But, okay, so now let's look at paragraph 6. Right above that.
Yes, I also had questions like, is this the language? So go for it, Sue.
I think we need to omit paragraph 6. Because we're not adding anything to the term.
No, we're actually still underneath it. So if that's easy for me to do.
Bye-bye.
And then I think we're all square.
Good. Those were outstanding questions, so I'm glad we could resolve them now.
Okay, great. I think with those changes, then what's in front of you right now, the resolution and the second amendment are ready for governing council approval.
Thank you,
Good.
Sue.
All right. Is there any more discussion or questions? We had talked about potentially voting on this at our last meeting and decided to put it off to now. I feel comfortable voting on it now. I think it's a good amendment, and I'm glad we have Sue's eye looking over it. But I wanted to give room if anyone has any further questions or any more discussion about it.
I had one question. Someplace it said the secretary had to sign. Who would that be?
I had that question too.
We don't have a current secretary, Sue. We have many board members looking to fulfill some of our officer positions, but it's currently an unfilled position.
Well, if you need to change that resolution, Beth, to just have the president sign, that's fine.
And a board member.
I think what we had, a president and then a board member, is that okay with you, Sue, if we do board president and board member? Okay.
And if we vote to approve this tonight, would we then send this to Martha for her signature, or would it just be like I would sign?
No, you're just signing the resolution. No one's signing the actual amendment tonight.
Sorry, yeah, the resolution.
Yeah, we just need the resolution signed and returned to me. And then I will submit the amendment package to the Public Education Department for approval. We do need your business manager to provide a revised socials and uses document, I believe.
We do have that as well, Sue.
Okay.
And I'm happy. It's in that folder that I just gave you editing rights to. And it's in a fairly recent email as well, but I'll make sure you see it.
Okay, there it is. Okay, great. So as long as all the exhibits are provided, and I have the resolution that's been signed by the governing council president, then I can go ahead and make that submittal.
Right?
Right, acting president.
Martha's also been available to sign.
I just wanted, since the baby's here, she can scooch down.
Sabah, do you want to go back to the agenda. I've been hopping around. I hope I'm not making anybody dizzy with my shared screen, but.
Yeah, let's just go back to the agenda.
You all need me to stay or?
No, thank you.
Okay.
I think we're good. Thank you, Sue, so much for your time and helping getting these last edits taken care of. I appreciate you.
Okay, thanks, everybody. Bye.
You, bye-bye.
All right. Okay. Well, do I have a motion to approve our resolution regarding the second amendment to our lease purchase agreement?
I move we approve the resolution to approve our lease purchase agreement amendment 2.
Thank you, Deb. And do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Was that Jody?
Yes,
Okay,
it is. And
thanks. Sorry, I can't always see everyone on my screen.
oh, that's fine. And I appreciate the discussion and the overall explanation of the different questions, because I believe as many of us have had questions come up, they were answered as she was, going through the conversation.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Jody, for the second. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. We have approved our resolution, and we'll get that signed and then sent over to, we'll send the amendment over to PED, who will then potentially get that back to us as soon as they can. And we can move forward, which would be good. Okay, great. Thank you all. Beth, did you want to talk about the 60,000, the purchase over 60,000 with Payday Inc.?
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity. Also linked in the director's report is and just I know we have a new board member, and so Ben, in our current policies, anything under $60,000 I can authorize as the chief procurement officer here at Gordon Brunel. And I keep that certification up to date. But anything over $60,000 has to come to the board for board approval. And so we do have a PO that we're looking to open and utilize with Payday Inc. In the amount of $91,060. This is a contracted services line item in our Innovation Zone grant, which is funding a new work-based learning program for students. And so we are busy hiring interns all over internally in the building, but also placing interns in partnering organizations that have agreed to take them on. And we have the funding through the Innovation Zone grant to pay them an hourly wage of $15 an hour. And rather than route all of that through SAMI, which is one way to do it, we have opted to partner with Payday Inc., who onboards them and then distributes their paychecks in a nice, easy way for students to receive those funds. And so happy to stand for questions if you need to know more about this particular purchase order, which is above the threshold of 60,000. So do you want some other highlights in the director's report, or do you want to go back and take care of that action item?
Let's go ahead and take care of that action item and then.
Perfect.
So all in favor, or sorry, all in favor. Do I have a motion to approve the payment to Payday Inc.? Do I have a motion to do that?
I motion to approve the Payday Inc. motion.
Thank you, Jody. And do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Ben, for seconding. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, yeah, Beth, if you want to roll through the rest of the director's report, that'd be great. Thank you, Sammy.
Thank you, Sammy.
Thank you, Sammy. Appreciate you. Certainly happy to talk more about any of the things in here if I go a little quickly. over some of them. I do try to update the board around staffing updates. I did inform the board at the December meeting that we accepted the resignation from a educational assistant out at MDC. While I'm still waiting for some official records, which I have requested, it does look like our concerns were warranted and that the investigation was substantiated. That's all that I know in a very brief email from a MDC representative, and I was informed that for more information, I could request the public records, which I have done. And so when they arrive, I will let you know. Just to recap again, and this is unofficial, but what we have heard is that there was a deterioration of boundary between our educational assistant and a inmate, not a current student, but a BO. And there was just some concern on Chris Cazone's, the administrator at that campus's part, that there was some inappropriate behavior. And so he pulled Devana's clearance immediately. We reported to MDC our concerns. They launched an investigation. No charges have been filed, and I'm not expecting them to be filed. I did hear that from the person that I talked to at MDC as well. But they did find a substantiated concern. And so my hope is that when I receive those records, they are not more than what we know about, but I will certainly let you know either way. We have very strict expectations in terms of proximity, in terms of the way that we speak to people. And there was just an incident, and we hope it's the only thing that happened. But there was an incident where this particular staff member was witnessed just a little too friendly and a little too close, and it was enough to concern Chris Cazone. We initiated the report to MDC, and they have cameras everywhere. And so their investigation was thorough, has concluded, does not result in any future action at this time, but was substantiated, the concern. And so if I get more information from the public records, I'll share it. But I'm appreciative of Mr. Cazone's attentiveness and his quick action to report immediately the concern he had, because before it resulted in anything more serious. And Devana was a great administrative NEA, but obviously not a good fit for that setting where there are very strict expectations about how we interact with others. So we also have a very sad situation with a long-term staff member who is battling some pretty severe health concerns. She did undergo both chemo and radiation treatments and is fine with us talking about that with staff and others, and is just really reeling from those experiences. She has put in her notice. We have a plan to cover her classroom. We have 2 Ed Fellows, which are educational assistants working towards their teaching credentials. And they're both in their 2nd year of that program. And so aligned to what they should be doing, moving into a student teaching type situation, as opposed to more of an observing and classwork situation. They've agreed to work with a mentor teacher to help cover that classroom and get some experience of their own under their belts in leading both classroom management and curriculum work with students. And so we won't be replacing her this year, and we will be thoughtful about how we hire next year. And we're hopeful that her stepping away gives her the strength that she needs to focus on her health and her recovery. She's been with us a long time, and so it's going to be hard to get rid of her. She's always already talking about what she can do part-time or how she can consult to stay connected. And we're just hopeful that her health concerns turn quickly, and she's able to do that in short term. And then I also do want to take just a quick moment to inform you of some other staffing changes external to Gordon Burnell that will have impact and influence in my world. Both Dr. Joseph Escobedo, the Senior Director for Charter Schools team with APS, who oversees our authorization, and compliance, did submit his resignation over the winter break, as did Matt Paul, the Executive Director of Public Charter Schools of New Mexico. And those are both important figures in terms of where I've received guidance and have been working closely over my tenure in this position. And so they both will be replaced. I'm confident in APS and PSNM's ability to replace them with quality people. But it is something to keep an eye on. I know in our previous discussions when we said that when we all but decided to renew with APS, and I made comments such as, well, I feel very safe because APS supports us. That's synchronous to I feel really safe because Dr. Joseph Escobedo supports us. And so we will be monitoring closely who takes his position. We will work closely with him or her, whoever takes on that position. And we're hopeful that our relationship maintains positive and strong because it is currently. So just wanted to let you in on that important information. It will be impactful. The other thing that I wanted to spend some time on, I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm tending to gray out some things that are not new, but still relevant. And then kind of keeping in that darker black, some of these newer data sets and things. I think that they're relevant all the time, but I hope that that makes sense to you. So this VISTA's information, this DASH information, this SIT PED information, it hasn't been updated since our December meeting, but I don't want to kind of lose the placeholder that those are important things for us to come back to. But there is new information to share in regards to our APS site visits, as well as our adult ed dashboard that I wanted to highlight in the last little time that I have with you this evening. When we looked at VISTA's data in November, Tina asked, well, what about the data points that are important to us? And so that really happens at a more local level. And I wanted to highlight two documents here. One, this is data that it was collected and analyzed and reported on by our DASH team and our PLC leads. And so it's awesome to see data crunching coming from our educators themselves. And they're really looking at again, and you can review that. It is linked, and it's why I didn't want to get rid of it, right? Because all of these kind of reference each other. And so our DASH plan is our year-long strategic planning, where we really look at what we're trying to accomplish this year. And so a lot of this data is relevant to that DASH plan. And some of the things that we are tracking are the number of core math credits, the number of core science credits, and the number of core humanity or ELA credits that are being earned. We feel like the best way that we can prepare our students to do well on the standardized assessments is to help them work through the curriculum and the content, and that they do that through credit acquisition. So we were pleased to see that credit acquisition is up. In some places significantly from the midpoint last year. And there's also some other data in there that's really interesting about who's improving on their short cycle assessments and who's utilizing our core kind of intervention software. And I'll pause here just in a second so we can take any questions about this particular data. We're still making sure that our ELA data is accurate. Part of that is again, we're in a new SIS system, a new student information system, where we're navigating how to accurately make sure that our data is in the right hands. So we do expect after the next DASH meeting for this ELA numbers to be updated. The other thing that we're really tracking in our DASH plan is our graduation cohort data. We know that even our 7-year and 8-year, our older students matter, but the state is really tracking our younger students and is hopeful to see them graduate on time. So a lot of time went into kind of gathering these numbers. It's difficult to wrap. It was difficult to wrap my head around, but I think it's good context. And every time I explain it, it gets makes a little more sense to me. When they're looking at which students are in our four-year cohort. They're looking at which students are graduating on time since the very first time they enrolled in any high school in New Mexico. Typically that happens at the age of 14 or 15, right? And so the very first time that a student shows up anywhere in New Mexico, as reported to the public education department, they are assigned a cohort at that moment. And then what we're looking at is how many of those students are with us now that can graduate on time. And it's really tricky for us because we don't take 14 and 15-year-olds. The lowest youngest student that is allowed enrollment with our school is 16, because the majority of our students are 18, 19, 20, and 21. And we've never felt comfortable including youth as young as 14 and 15 in our young adult model. So again, this isn't tracking like our senior is going to graduate. This is tracking who started school 4 years ago in New Mexico and that is with us now, who started school 5 years ago in New Mexico and is with us now, and who started school somewhere in New Mexico 6 years ago and is with us now. It doesn't take into account if they dropped out of school for that entire time and they just came back to us. And so it is another kind of limiting data point, but one that we're tied to in the current accountability models. There's also some really interesting data from our adult ed program here in terms of who's experiencing measurable skill gains at this time compared to last time. So I'll pause and see if anyone has questions or thoughts about this particular data set. I know that student data is something that the board is interested in seeing more of and having greater discussion around.
Beth, I have a question. I hold adult ed close to my heart, as you know. The data point that you have for community, is that the Polk site?
It's combined Polk and North Forth, both. But yes,
Okay.
we are still serving at Polk.
Okay. Do you know how many students are in that community program?
Can easily look it up in this moment and let you know. I'm struggling because Zoom likes to put things at the top of the screen where I can't. Oh my gosh, that's so much better that I can move it. My apologies for that little moment. Oh, let me see. Nope, the best place. No, it might be. I thought I could pull it very quickly, but then I thought, no, that's going to take a couple of iterations to get that data. I know that there is a cohort, I want to believe, of 7 right now that attend regularly at Polk, that really consistent data, a really consistent attendance. I know that the number has fluctuated, up to 14 or 15, but we've struggled with retaining all of those individuals. And I may be a little outdated with that, Tina, but it's a strong enough cohort that Karen and Simon feel motivated to stay down there. And they're expecting those 7 to graduate before the end of the year. And so it's a small but kind of mighty satellite campus. And we're glad to keep it going because our experience has been that we create a little cohort down there and then they end up successfully graduating, and that feels meaningful. But I can certainly get back to you with less estimating numbers and some just kind of trends of what that's been over the year, Tina. I'll do that.
That would be great. Thank you.
No problem. Any other thoughts about that? The data sets that I first shared around student data?
For the when they start tracking the students, that's any school that they walk into.
Yes.
That's when the timer starts, not when they come to us specifically.
Yes, that's correct. And any student who is supposed to graduate in this cohort that's been with us. So when they're looking at a graduation rate, it's a percentage, right? And so there's a numerator and a denominator. The numerator is the students who we graduate this year who belong to that cohort. And the denominator is any student that we've served over the last 4 years that belongs to that cohort. So for example, if a student, this is the cohort of 2026. So these are students that started the fall of 2021. And let's say a student started that year at 14 years old at Highland, and then spent a year or 2 years there, and then dropped out, or no, then came to us in 2024, and stayed with us for 6 months, but then wasn't able to complete with us either. They're still in this year's 4-year cohort. So our denominator is any student who started in the state of New Mexico in 2021 that we have reported at any time over the last 4 years. That's our denominator. And then our numerator is who graduates this year. And there is some shared accountability there as well. So let's say a student started at Highland High School, came to us, didn't work out, but then ended up at Atrisco High and still graduates on time. We still get a sliver of that numerator. And so there's a tremendous amount of math at the public education department going into these. I have tried to replicate them and spend some time, and it seems like it's working. It's just a weird formula. Like I don't agree with the formula, but at least I understand it at this point. So our graduation rate is any student in the state who graduates on time that spends any time with us is the numerator, and the denominator is any student who spent any time with us that was supposed to graduate this year across the state. So it's not as simple as who's enrolled, who's a senior, how do we track their progress. It's a much larger metric. And it's the PED's attempt at sharing accountability and successes across all schools who work with a student in their high school career. And so, we may get them re-engage, and then someone else may graduate them, but we still get to share some of that success as well.
If they don't come back at all, do both schools then have to suffer the consequences?
All schools who've touched that student.
Right.
And so a 4-year cohort student should have 16 reports to PED if they stayed in school the whole time, right? Because every school reports to PED 4 times a year, beginning of year, 40-day, 80-day, 120-day, and end of year. And so we report data 4 times a year. And so a graduate in the 4-year cohort should have 16 snapshots. Mm-hmm. And so we split up those snapshots. Mm-hmm. And so if a student graduates and they were with me for 7 snapshots and with Highland for 1 snapshot, then I get more of the points. But many of our students dropped out for large periods of time. So they don't have those snapshots and no one's getting the credit, but we're all getting dinged for them not graduating. It's PED math. I don't know what to say. But I can certainly forward, there are big, long technical manuals if you want to get into how accountability is calculated. They are transparent with their formulas and their business rules for how they're handling the data. And that is helpful. I appreciate that. It's not a secret.
Only your dad understands it.
It took several reads and lots of consultation with some great people in the accountability department at PED for me to wrap my head around it. Mm-hmm. But it is why we are an MRI school. And so I'm invested in learning it because, again, we are categorized for being poor performing in our graduation rates. But remember that they're not taking into account the students that we graduate in a 7-year or 8-year cohort, or students. Anyhow, I've gone on this tangent many times, and will probably many more. Just keeping track of time, I'm going to transition to the other APS document that I think is important for us to look at. This is more longitudinal data, while that other one was looking at this time last year compared to this time this year. This is looking at since the beginning of our current charter through we're nearing the end of our current charter. And so this is data that we will use, analyze, and provide narration around as we submit for our new charter after this year, right? And so there's a lot of information on here that is repeat. This is the same data that you'll see on Vistas. This is the percentage of our students that are proficient on the SATs, which is not something we are actively preparing them for, but something that they have to take because those are the accountability assessments that New Mexico has chosen. Again, here's our 4-year cohort data, something that they're tracking, remembering that those are not students that have been with us for 4 years, but that students who were identified 4 years ago as freshmen anywhere in the state. And then students who have identified them, 5 years ago and 6 years ago as freshmen anywhere in the state. I am actively bugging every chance I get for them to start tracking 7-year and 8-year cohort data. They fund students up until the age of 22, but they don't care to track their outcomes. I just don't understand that. And so I keep asking that question. They keep telling me that it's a great question and that they're considering it. So
Great question.
anyhow, here's some more interesting data. It's hard to compare because we have switched assessments and it's always difficult to compare apples to oranges. But internally, in the school year 21-22, we decided that while APS is tracking proficiency through a cut score on the SATs, we are tracking proficiency based on levels that are equivalent to students being able to possibly be successful on the high school equivalency, like the GED or the HiSET. And we also crosswalked these grade level equivalencies to the cut scores on the AccuPlacer, or now the ALEX, as CNM has also changed their assessment. But what the cut scores are to get into the trades without having to do remedial work. And so we looked at the cut scores to get into the trades at CNM without the need to do remedial work. And we looked at the cut scores that we're understanding from both experience and guidance about what it takes for students to pass the high school equivalency. And we set our proficiency scores at, we want our students to read at the 9th grade level and be able to do math at the 7th grade level. Because if they can do that, then they can pass the GED or they can get into trade school without remedial coursework. And so that was where we set our goals for proficiency. For several years, we tracked that in Reading Plus and in Renaissance Star Math. And this year we switched to the TABE. And so, these numbers we're not super proud of, to be honest. We spent a lot of time in professional development on the first day that I just realized I don't know if I filled out the professional development section in the director's report. I left it blank, huh? That was something I was going to do and didn't do. My apologies. But we had a great professional development day on January 6th, and we spent the majority of it looking at data, talking about how we want to improve data. But this is important to think about. The average student comes in around the 5th grade level in reading and the 3rd or 4th grade level in math. And so it's a challenge and something that I'm interested in discussing with you as we kind of finish up looking at some of these other charts. We also track career, college and career readiness activities. We are hoping to have all students participate in some career interest assessments, but also in some career pathway exposure, which is another level, and includes things like internships and work-based experiences. We lost an employee, and I am still trying to clean up her data so that I can disaggregate it a little bit better, but I was able to get solid numbers around all students and some of the special student groups as well. We also track, these are our mission-specific goals This is what we wrote into our current charter. We hope that we, at the beginning of every semester or when a student enrolls, we complete an ILP with them, an individualized learning plan. It's loosely based on a special education individualized education program, where it helps students look at their current performance levels, identify goals, and set out a plan for how are they going to get from where they are to where they want to be. And so every semester, every student sits down with an advisor and sets up an ILP, an individualized learning plan, and they identify a goal of their own. And then it's got, there's some guidance. They get to set a personal goal, but they also have to set an academic goal, and that could be to increase a test score, to show higher proficiency in math or reading. It could also be to complete a certain number of credits, to matriculate to a new grade level, those types of things. And so we've been tracking our students' ability to meet their own goals. And while that certainly helps them make progress in their academic journey, it's also a highly transferable skill in terms of if you can set a goal and adjust a goal and work towards a goal and meet it, man, you can do anything you want, right? If you can take that skill and apply it to other parts of your life as well. So that's a really meaningful data point that we track. We also track what we call a student engagement rubric score. When every student who enrolls with us, we have them on a Likert scale, say, answer questions like, I exercise regularly and enjoy movement. I do art. I love to cook. And the idea being that we're trying to identify some of those protective factors. We know that traumatic experiences really damage people's experiences and outlook sometimes on the world, but we also know that positive experiences really heal people's perspective and outlook and energy in the world. And so this is loosely based on the developmental assets, which are another well-researched strategy of helping identify those protective factors, right? Do students have people they can talk to? Do they have activities that help them balance their mental health and their physical health and all the things that we know help us be the people that we want to show up as? And so we give people this survey, all students when they enroll, and then we give it to them again when they graduate, in the hopes that their experience at Gordon Burnell and all of the opportunities we have and all of the enrichment activities that we do are helping people increase their protective factors as well. And we can see some fluctuation in that data, which has been really interesting. And then again, we're tracking our adult ed outcomes. And so it's just another place where we can see that, this time disaggregated a little bit differently, because we have just as many students enrolled in our adult ed program across our campuses as we do in our high school. And so even though APS isn't funding that, they have been aware of it and support it. And so we wanted to make sure that we were showing our outcomes there as well. We continue to grow in this space. We've learned a lot since year one, and we are very proud of the work that we're doing in adult ed. And so just before we stop and talk about that tremendous amount of data that I just shared, there is a new link here that I wanted to share with you, and that is something that HED is producing, tracking our data as well.
That was interesting.
And so, we ended last year, they rank their programs, which is interesting, and there's quite a bit of competitiveness around that. We ended last year in third place on this chart, and we're very proud of that. We're smack in the middle of it now. There's a ton of things you can click on here. This is updated monthly by HED and is tracking all of the indicators that they're using to evaluate and oversee our program. And I just wanted to make sure that you had that link as well. So tons of information, but I'm happy to answer questions, talk about it, bring things back in future meetings that you want to know more about. And so I'm done.
Well, thank you, Bev. I don't know where to start, but does anyone have questions about the data that was shared and things for discussion or things that maybe we want to talk about at a future meeting, considering the time.
I didn't have a question, but I did want to say I was glad to see the adult ed information because we've shared all of our high school information a lot. And I had, maybe other people were aware, but I simply wasn't aware of that information being available like that. And I really appreciated it.
There's some real spaces to think strategically and intentionally about. We want, we've got a great group of educators, and when we looked at the data, and we see the drops around proficiency, it's easy to be like, oh, well, we switched to a more rigorous standardized test, and we used to test, within the programs that they were working on, and this is a more, a different assessment. And is that necessary? And the discussion is rich, and the desire to continuously improve programming through review of the data and intentional work is strong right now. I'm super proud of the teams, their willingness to look at the data realistically and be honest about where it can improve and what that can look like. And so I think when I started 5 years ago, we were very good at tracking data for every individual student, right? This idea that if a student came in and out of our program, we could always pick up with them where they had left off. But we were a very different program back then as well. We were serving many more students, probably 3 to 4 times we were 3 to 4 times larger than we are now at certain points in our history. And there was really kind of this approach, at least the way I interpreted it, was that, cast a really wide net, offer opportunity and access to as many people as possible, and then work closely with those that kind of rose to the top, those that were most interested and willing to participate. And we had great success with hundreds and hundreds of students with that model. And since the HCAP and the increased oversight and new leadership, it's the first time we've really started tracking data and disaggregating it kind of holistically and using it to evaluate programs. And we had to do quite a bit of work to set up that infrastructure and those systems so that we could get this data into the hands of our educators and talk about it. We've never been data ignorant. We've always been data compliant, but now we're kind of moving into, being data driven and more data informed and data driven in terms of how do we get better at what we do. And I'm really proud of that work. That has not been an easy evolution, right? And it's been a lot of efforts by many people to set up systems so that we have different data that we can look at more holistically in terms of what's working and what's not and how do we get better, as opposed to just what is this student doing compared to what is that student doing. And so, that being said, as we lean into a new charter, how do we get really intentional about what data is important and how do we improve our programs so that we can see gains in the places we want to? Anybody have things that maybe I could bring back at a later date or dive a little deeper in, not so broadly? I'm open to anything that would be helpful, because I know this has been a board priority to focus more on data. And so I don't know, that may have been data overload. Maybe it's easier to look at little pieces every month, as opposed to these larger data sources, but I'm happy to bring to the table or what works best for you all.
I think these looks at data are just right.
Thank you, Jody, for that feedback.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. I think that, yeah, especially as we're looking at our new charter, we should definitely, this is very helpful for me too, to just get this information in front of me and try and incorporate it into our board priorities and potentially a new charter. So thank you for that. I don't know what to say for bringing it forward to bring like a specific piece forward to a future meeting, but if anyone has ideas that you think of between now and our next meeting, feel free to reach out to Beth and we can get that on the agenda. We are 5 minutes till 5:30, and we just have one more thing on the agenda to go over. I know we had potentially thought we would have a shorter board meeting today, but there's too much to discuss. So, but I think we can go over this pretty quickly. This last thing is just this letter that Martha and I had worked on that we were going to send to legislators who had given some capital outlay to the school, and potentially some legislators who maybe hadn't done that, but who are on the Legislative Finance Committee. And it basically thanks them for doing that, thanks them for their efforts to keep funding for adult education and prioritizing adult education. And then lastly, in both the governor's and the Legislative Finance Committee's recommendations for fiscal year 27 was a $5 million appropriation for adult education. So we're thanking them for doing that and urging them to do everything they can to make sure that number doesn't get lost in the shuffle between now and February 20th. So I don't think this is something that we need to do a board vote on, like an approval of it, but there is a line for everyone's signature on the document. So if you're able to, and you've had a chance to look at the letter and approve of it, if you can add your signature just digitally, that would be awesome. Tina, is that our new board member? What is your?
We have a new family member.
Oh, cute.
Believe it or not, his name is Fish.
Fish.
Of course.
Is there any questions or discussion on the letter to the legislators?
But I thought you and Martha did a great job encapsulating what we're using our money for, thanking them. It was to the point. It was, I really appreciated that you did it, and I really appreciated the way you wrote it. So thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you for that feedback. Yeah, Martha wrote the majority of it. I just added in a couple little things here and there. So yeah, if everyone is able to get in there and just add your digital signature, that would be great. And if possible, if we could do that by the end of this week, maybe, so that we could send it just before the legislative session starts on January 20th, I think that would be great.
Sabah, do you want me to send that out for electronic? I mean, I can go in and I can paste my digital signature. Would you like me to send it to everybody for electronic signature so they can just click?
Oh, like as a PDF?
Yeah,
that would probably be best.
I can do that. I'll get that out. Maybe this evening, or if not first thing tomorrow. It's very quick, but I'll do that. I'll send that out through Adobe Sign. And then very quickly before you close, Sabah, I do have an update from Martha. Hold on, I don't remember. I want to get it right. She sent some pictures, which she has given me permission to send out in an email, which I do. Heron James Christophic was born Saturday, 1/10/26, as the first baby of the year in Grants. So if you are on Facebook and you go to, there's like a post from Grants, like about with a picture of Martha and her beautiful new family. He was doing really well. Right before he went home, though, they did discover some rapid breathing and low oxygen levels, and so they wanted to be as careful as possible, and they did transfer him to Albuquerque to the NICU, where he is doing very well, gaining strength and looking great. And her hope is that the whole family will return back home to Theru after this weekend. And so she sent some pictures with permission to share this update and to send those out. And she looks beautiful, and so does the baby. So I will make sure that in addition to sending out the legislative letter for Adobe Sign, there'll be another email from me with those pictures from Martha, and she's doing well, and baby's doing well, and so super great news.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sabah.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That is great news. Okay. Well, it is 5:30, so
Wait,
do I have a
Sabah,
motion?
I have a
Yes.
question really
Yeah.
quick. And I apologize for not being at last month's meeting. And I noticed that there was some mention of it in the notes, but is there any more updates on the annual training that we are getting or when it will be?
I can answer that very briefly, Tina. The hope still, again, for Ben's benefit mostly, board members have some annual training that they have to accomplish, and there's a variety of ways to do that. There is asynchronous training that any board member can complete. It's fairly painless, although also kind of rote. But that is always an option. Our board has opted to do an in-person training facilitated by Kelly Callahan, who is a approved facilitator, and that's been a great experience. They have a new Kelly Callahan has a new offering, and Diego and Teresa as well are joining her in that, where they're pulling together 2 or 3 schools to do that in-person training together. So not only would the board be able to work on its own priorities in small groups, but would also have all the insight of what other charter schools are doing, and that kind of ability to do that with other schools. I did see Kelly and Teresa and Diego at the charter school conference in December, and let them know that we were very interested in doing that this spring, and that our hope was that it could be offered on a Saturday, because the problem with that offering in the fall was that it was on a Friday, and that wasn't doable for some of our working board members. And so I was informed that they would be setting that schedule soon. I can reach out and ask again. It sounded like the board's preference was to take part in that multiple school in-person half-day training. If that day doesn't work for the board, we can still schedule something with Kelly on our own. And then there is always that asynchronous option as well. And so I don't have an update. They haven't scheduled it yet. But the board is welcome to look at dates and tentatively get something on Kelly's Callahan schedule that's not this. I'll leave that to discussion and decision for you all. But I will reach out and see if I can get an update from Kelly on when that larger group training is being scheduled.
Do we have to have done it within the year that we did it before? Is that part of a problem? Because didn't we do it like last end of January?
It has to be done at some point in this school year. As long as you all have your hours submitted to PED by the end of June, you're compliant.
Should we also send you dates we cannot?
If you want to start thinking about dates that don't work, and continuing that discussion, it may be worthwhile. But I will reach out and see if Kelly can give us when she's going to do that larger multi-school training, and see if it works.
Well, I also have a comment. Sabah, thank you for being our president. Are you going to do it next month, or am I?
I think you're up for next month.
Okay, I'll do that. I can.
Yeah.
I got this for my husband, so I can do that. Thank you. That's going to teach.
We'll do it together.
Yeah, as long as it still will work for you, and if it doesn't, I will be happy to do it again, or maybe someone else can take a turn.
Okay, thank you, Sabah.
All right. Okay. Well, do I have a motion to adjourn the Gordon Burnell Governance Council January 2026 meeting at 5:34 p.m.?
I move we adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, Deb. And Tina, thank you for the second. All right, and then we are adjourned. Thank you all so much.
Appreciate everybody. Welcome, Ben. Good to see everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. All right, have a good evening.
You as well.